Welcome, Katie Kimball from Kitchen Stewardship here, and I am so very honored to host my dear friend, Dr. Madiha Saeed. She is a holistic MD from the Chicago area. She goes by Holistic Mom MD, and Madiha is a board-certified family physician, best-selling author of The Holistic RX, Your Guide to Healing Chronic Inflammation and Disease, which is super related to what we're talking about today. And she speaks internationally, igniting the world with her passion to ignite a healing revolution, including to 40,000 people at the United Nations. Hello, that's amazing. She's putting together the first Family Health Expo of its kind for September 2020. That's going to be a fun, holistic wellness event for families. And Dr. Saeed is an expert on inflammation. It's a little ironic, though, that you ignite the world with your passion for healing because you're very anti-inflammation, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So why is inflammation such a big deal, Dr. Saeed, when it comes to disease and how we feel?
Oh my gosh, because the rise of chronic illness is directly related. One of the main factors is directly related to inflammation. But and this is why it's such an honor to be here with you today. I'm so excited to really shed light on this, topic that, we sort of know when we go to your doctor, if you have eczema, they give you an anti-inflammatory. When you have allergies, they give you an anti-inflammatory. When you have asthma, they give you an anti-inflammatory. When you have pain, they give you an anti-inflammatory. When you have headaches, they give you an anti-inflammatory. When you have autoimmune disease, they give you an anti-inflammatory. The list goes on and on and on. But guess what? This is what's so shocking, is that doctors, including, I'm a family physician, my husband's a family physician, my sister's a pediatric ICU physician, I have a brother who's an interventional cardiologist, I have cousins/sisters that are psychiatry, literally I have every, specialty under our roofs.
Uh-huh.
But not a single one of us was taught, yes, we were taught, all right, yes, this is inflammation, here we're going to band-aid it, but nobody has ever asked the question, one, why is there inflammation? So all we really tended to learn in residency and in medical school was, here's a problem, here's a solution, and most likely the solution included a pharmaceutical. Mm-hmm. Because we were just here band-aiding the problem. And so let's go ahead, before we dive into all of that, let's dive into figure out exactly what is inflammation.
Yes.
Because I know we hear this all over the place, but what is it? Now this is for me, I'm I knew, but I'm we got to put a name to this. And it literally just means fire inside. And it's something that we're all familiar with. It's a hot, fierce, life-saving reaction that occurs with your body's immune system, tries to fight off infections, heal from injuries, protect you from disease. But the thing is, this is what's really important, is there's two forms of inflammation. So there's acute, which is good inflammation. It lasts a short time, a few seconds to several days. Yay, your body's working well. It serves a healthy purpose, beneficial. Yay! But then the problem is that chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation gradually destroys this magnificent masterpiece that we were born with. It's that hidden, smoldering fire brought on your body's immune system as it tries to fight off modern day's life exposures to unhealthy foods, toxins, stress, allergens, and overgrowth of these bad bugs, and even low-grade infections that all drive chronic disease, even obesity. Mm-hmm. So these triggers can all cause, an increase in release of these inflammatory molecules that are actually one of the actual molecules, of your inflammation, of your immune system, is called cytokines. And these cytokines are so important to fighting off infections and cancer. It really basically tells you that, okay, this is friend, this is foe, and helps you figure out the difference between each. But when properly functioning, right, that's if it's properly functioning, mm-hmm. the fire can remain contained. And when the fire remains contained, everything works so much better, yay! But when the responses get out of control, when you're constantly being bombarded by triggers in all directions, that then can go into overdrive, goes out of control, destroys everything in its path, leading to chronic diseases of every stripe. And it even affects your mitochondria. So like, what is so scary is that chronic disease is on a rise, not even just in adults, but in children. They say we have about 57% of all American children have a chronic diagnosed condition. I know,
So
it's like the new
high.
normal. And what's crazy is if we don't continue, if we continue at the current trajectory, 80% of all kids is going to have a chronic health condition by 2025. And not even just all chronic diseases, like scary autism. They have been estimated that 1 out of every 4 will have autism by 2033, and that's if we continue at an annual growth rate of 13%. Last year, I saw that the annual growth rate was 14%, so it's really just accelerating, at like terrible, terrible speeds. So we needed to figure this out because us as Americans, we are spending the most on healthcare in the world. But we are number 43rd on the life expectancy. So there's something going on here. Like we're missing the boat in something. And especially with these chronic conditions, conventional medicine is amazing for acute conditions. But when it comes to chronic conditions, that's when it really, really misses the boat. And we're just all we've been taught is like, this is the problem, and we're going to band-aid it mostly with this pharmaceutical. Because, so doctors don't know how to address the underlying root cause. So therefore, that inflammation continues to brew because you never really deal with the underlying root cause. So that continues to brew, this reaction continues to increase, causing your chronic symptoms. So we really have to figure out what the root cause is that's leading to this hyper reaction of the immune system that leads to your chronic symptoms.
Well, you've laid out a very condemning case against inflammation. I think you could be a lawyer in a courtroom, like, ba-dum, pa-chow. It is very clear when you show how many diseases into which inflammation is woven, and then we sort of cap it off in the medical establishment with the prescription instead of, as you said, and I love your holistic viewpoint on this, well, where is all this inflammation coming from, and why don't we cut it off at the roots instead of just putting a little salve or a little ointment, a little pill on top. Today we're talking about sugar. We're talking about kids because that is one of the many root causes. So how does sugar relate to possible inflammation in our bodies and our little kids' little bodies?
Oh my gosh, I know. And this is, especially if you start looking at the data, it is unbelievable that we still go to the doctors. I feel like the doctors sometimes are not looking at the data, even though it's like every time you go to them, is this evidence-based? Yes, it's evidence-based, but you're not looking at the evidence.
Not the right evidence.
Not the right evidence, seriously. You go to your doctor's office, our bodies, our lives are bombarded with like sugar. We literally live in a culture of sugar. Every holiday, every treat, every celebration, trip to the doctors. When the kids come after their appointments from the doctor's office, every child is given like a dum-dum. I'm like, no, don't give that to my kid. Thank you so much. And that's like reinforcing, okay, here you go, you're gonna get sick again, you might come back. No, so then we're feeding the system. It's terrible.
Job security.
I know.
Man.
Can you imagine? Oh, crazy.
One of my kids had a teacher who would give them Hershey's Kisses when they'd get a correct answer, and she'd say, "Kiss your brain." And I'm like, how about smack your brain? That's terrible.
Yes, no, don't do this to the kids. But our culture and like everything that we're seeing on the media and advertising and TV all revolves around this, specifically food. And with food, 74% of all these packaged foods have sugar. And so why, right? Because we know that sugar stimulates the brain reward centers, through all these like neurotransmitters. So when you, this is why that if you stop eating sugar, you immediately start to have, it's like a drug. It seriously is a drug where when you withdraw, it's like withdrawing from any other drug. But what's really scary is that is not just has addictive properties. Unfortunately, it's directly related to chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes. And guess what? It has no nutritional value.
Mm-hmm.
So we're filling all the kids' bellies with this toxin with no nutritional value, making them monsters, because seriously, the diseases that are associated with this are tremendous. Like, probably most of these chronic diseases are due to, one of the main factors is the terrible lifestyle, including sugar. And so what else is going on with sugar? So bad bacteria like to thrive on sugar. That leads to more bad bacteria overgrowth of these pathogenic bacteria, like, we have yeast species like fungi, and then it increases again. That increases, you want to have more sugar. So like more fungi, more bad bacteria make you want to have more sugar, that feed these bad bacteria. So like it's this ongoing cycle. It's like this vicious cycle. So then this imbalance of the microbiome then leads to more inflammation. It also interferes with the ability of your white blood cells. So your white blood cells, the ability of them is hastened. Why? Because it just doesn't work anymore. Because of the fact that then they can't destroy toxins, then they can't fight off infections, continuing to make you sick. So now we have more bad bacteria. Your white blood cells are not working properly, high inflammation. Now, if that wasn't crazy enough, all of that can actually occur within minutes of eating sugar. Minutes of eating sugar. And that effect can last several hours. So they're like, oh no, it's just for today. It's okay, just let him have it one time. No, because that then lasts so much longer. It's not just this one time. That effect really lasts. Sugar also disrupts your blood sugar balance with insulin spikes that can be really dangerous, leading to like fatigue and brain fog and anxiety and mood swings. Oh my God, that's like the worst thing that you want to have on your kid on sugar. We think that it's like constant mood swings. Why? Because of the fact that you have those insulin spikes that can be dangerous, right? And when they're dangerous, how are they dangerous? Because one, for our own psychological health, well, plus for their physiology also, because these spikes. So what happens is when you have a carbohydrate, when you eat sugar, your glucose needs sugar for energy. Your cell needs sugar and glucose for energy. But the only way that this sugar and glucose actually enter the cell is if it has a key. And that key is called insulin. It's released by your pancreas and it releases insulin. So insulin goes and it's a key that opens the door, lets the glucose in, and everybody's healthy and happy. But over time, what happens is that either sugar or the processed foods that we're eating, the chronic stresses our kids are in, all of this keeps our blood sugar level elevated. And then when our blood sugar level is elevated, that leads to an increase of your insulin levels. And then because your insulin levels are elevated all the time, your body's like, I don't need to keep on listening to them. So if I don't need to keep on listening to them, then then the sugar does not enter the cells that it needs for energy. And what happens? Your cells stop listening to the insulin. Your pancreas can start to push out more and more and more insulin. Can lead to stages of diabetes. I mean, we are literally seeing diabetes more so in now kids. It's becoming, so these adult diseases now are becoming child diseases. And it's really, really scary because the fact that with this, this leads to a state called insulin resistance. Insulin resistance leads to like brain fog, sugar crashes, carb cravings, weight gain around the midsection, increases your appetite and sugar cravings, leads to fatty liver that can become deadly. So sugar then also increases like oxidative stress. That also then leads to inflammation.
Right.
So basically, it's just not good. It's terrible stuff. We just got to get off of it, especially in my house. I'm like, if I don't want to be constant, because remember, you still feel like hungry because it increases your appetite. And then you have these mood swings. I'm like, I'm not giving it to my kids for my own, not for, yes, for them, but also for my own psychological purposes. Because one, I don't want to be in the kitchen all day long. Their bodies are constantly craving this nutrient. I don't want to give them this. I don't want to increase their appetite. Where their appetite is good is great now. I got 4 boys. That's my kids are never out of the kitchen. So therefore, I would prefer them out of the kitchen as best as possible. And then on top of that, I don't want to deal with these ups and downs of insulin levels that causes them. You know how you have these kids that are like screaming. They're like, I need food. I just need it. And they start throwing tantrums. I know before I started this, years before, like 10 years before I started this, my child did have his temper tantrums, like crying in the grocery store because he needed something to eat. So now I'm trying to run this chemical-free, chemical-less experiment in my house. They literally turn into normal human beings when you start feeding them better. And sugar, once I took sugar out completely, and it's found in all these different, you have to really start to look for it. But once you start to look for it and start reading labels, get it out completely, you have totally different human beings. So do this for yourself, do this for your children. So that's the best place to start.
That is a lot of hope for parents. Now, that really brings me to an important question, though. Is there a difference between added sugar, as in processed white sugar, and whole food sugars like fruit and dairy?
So, yes, huge difference, because this processed sugar, total bad. But in the fruit, in dairy we have lactose, fruit we have fructose. Mm-hmm. So fructose is combined with the fiber. So it actually, it doesn't raise your blood sugar level.
Because of the fiber.
Because of the fiber. And so what's really awesome and scary all at the same time is that if you look at the glycemic load of food, so cornflakes raises your blood sugar level, has a higher glycemic load than sugar does. So the more processed, so yes, cornflakes has like no sugar in it, but the thing is all of these processed foods can still raise your blood sugar level in your body higher than sugar does. So if you look at the list, it's like corn, it's cornflakes, then sugar, then corn chips, then a Mars bar. Ooh. So the more processed food it is, the more higher the glycemic load, the glycemic index would be.
Okay. And corn sounds like it's on the X list.
Yes, no, especially, if you're going to do it occasionally as like a treat, that's fine. But the thing is, it's when you take it out, right? Because fructose in and of itself, so fructose combined in the fruit, the fructose is fine within that. But it's when you have these free fructose that causes the problem. Because why? Because of the fact that it can literally lead to all of these fatty liver and diabetes and pre-diabetes. Because when you take energy, when you have energy, right? It's like little building, like you have all the way that energy, you need food for energy. But when you have the wrong type of food, so like just what we were saying, it's not all the foods. You're like, oh yeah, if you look at calories, right? Calories are energy. So either you have a processed food, yes, this has the same amount of energy in it, but it's what else is it doing to your body that really we have to make a difference. So that's one of the pieces of that puzzle. But remember, this high fructose corn syrup is literally deadly. So I would totally stay away from the high fructose corn syrup, which is usually found in processed foods, and really just stick with the natural food sugars if your child even needs it.
Sure. So something like a raisin or a grape, even better, because it has
absolutely.
The whole fruit, it's got the fiber in the skins, that's going to be processed by our body much different than, say, even 100% fruit juice. And then white sugar would be even worse, and refined grains and corn when we're taking out the outer hull and all that fiber and all the good fats.
Yeah. So remember, not all foods are created equally. Not all energy is created equally. Not all calories are created equally. So to really avoid sugar, and there's so many different types, because in an apple or a fruit, it's just like, okay, there's just it's just apple or fruit. I mean, but
Mm-hmm.
sugar has so many different names in it. But specifically for like high fructose corn syrup, we got to really try to avoid it. Tons of processed sugar can lead to obesity, inflammation, heart disease, like even dementia in older people, leading to premature death, impaired glucose tolerance, basically badness. So yes, try to stick with the whole food sugar versus the processed foods sugar.
Honey and maple syrup, where are those on the scale?
So much better.
Okay.
So much better. And there's so nutrient density in those foods.
Okay.
So yes, so I would, like, for example, honey in and of itself can go in and attach to all of the bad things and like flush it out of your body.
Okay.
I mean, the nutrients in honey and maple syrup, for me, I do cook. Like my kids have sweets, but we use honey as a replacement for those. Like we do brownies, but we replace them with honey, you know?
I have eaten some of your beautiful paleo cookies, I believe.
Yes.
So now the honey and the maple syrup, that actually impacts the insulin and the blood sugar differently than white sugar?
Absolutely. And it doesn't raise your blood sugar level as high. Plus they're nutrient dense. You only need a little bit to go a long way.
So still, I mean, we're still talking in moderation. We're not drinking honey sweetened drinks all the time here.
No, just moderation. Like, for example, if you're looking for an alternative for sweets, so it's not about, you know, removing things completely. We're talking about replacing the sugar for healthier, more nutrient-dense foods versus, you know, just trying to take it out completely, because that's never going to work. And my kids are 12 to 4. They need some of that energy, you know, but the calories that I'm getting them, and plus on top of that, to feel like, you know, they need their treats in the morning, you know, so it doesn't feel like they're being secluded, you know. So it's fun stuff.
Sounds good. You talked a lot about, I mean, I'm totally on board, obviously, with the fact that sugar is evil and should be condemned, right? Going to jail in the handcuffs. But is there like a physiological explanation exactly with the inflammation in particular? Or is inflammation involved in everything you've mentioned?
So for sugar itself, because sugar then leads to, remember we just talked about, like, sugar leads to the inflammation.
Okay.
That then
so it's
leads
the sugar,
to
the insulin resistance, and then that causes inflammation because your body doesn't know what to do.
Absolutely. And not even just that. I mean, it weakens your immune system. How? Because it doesn't let the white blood cell count, the blood cells work properly. It increases your bad bacteria in your gut. And when you're bad bacteria, that then can lead to more inflammation. So there's so many different avenues that it's working. So sugar is just not like it's like a full-pronged approach here, just trying to kill us and trying to keep us addicted to this stuff. Seriously, it's terrible.
I think so too. And I actually read an article recently, I don't remember where it was, but it was, you know, spouting research and saying, oh, actually, sugar is neither addictive nor does it cause hyperactivity in children. This is research-based. And I was like, I don't know.
No. There's so much big, and that's probably, and whenever you see studies like that, you want to see who sponsored those studies. Yeah. Because the fact that you're probably like, you know, where is this coming from? And then, for example, there was last year or 2 years ago, there was this huge thing about coconut oil and how all coconut oil is so bad. But when you look at who sponsored it, it was canola oil and drug companies that sponsored it. So you have to really go back to the source of those. Because, again, sugar is terrible, but just to replace it with different types of sweeteners. For example, I mean, there's other, if you wanted me to name some more, there are like honey we talked about, because honey itself, and let's go in and talk about, because I think instead of just talking about like the bads of this one thing, let's talk about that, because yes, we all know this is bad, but it's so good. But let's talk about like remember I like positive, like not no, but like look at all of this amazing nutrient densities in other foods, because honey in and of itself, so least processed sugar sweetener, full of antioxidants and vitamins and minerals, lowers inflammation, and actually aids the gut by acting as a prebiotic. It neutralizes the free radicals, that actually improves allergies, coughs and asthma. Like, this has all been proven. And remember, if you're gonna do this type of honey, to do like raw Nuka honey.
Yep.
But you see how just honey, like, why would you do sugar if like this honey has so many benefits? And then just take maple syrup, for example. Remember, maple syrup, tons of antioxidants. It actually decreases your blood plasma glucose levels, protects your microbiome, and even protects you against cancer. Mind blown.
Love it.
Seriously.
Love it.
And then if you're really worried about, I mean, most of the kids that I see are pre-diabetic. Actually, this is really scary because I'm the director of education for Documenting Hope, and a non-for-profit organization dedicated to heal chronic disease in children. So I see a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of these kids are actually pre-diabetic, are insulin resistant. I know we have a crisis.
It's crazy.
Where probably 70% of the kids that I'm seeing are insulin resistant. And if you're really worried, they're like, oh no, my doctors never told my kid is insulin resistant. But guess what? They never checked it. We were never taught to check insulin resistance. So you want to ask your doctors for, a lipid panel to check triglycerides. You want them to check, a hemoglobin A1C that checks the sugar levels over the last 3 months. I want that level less than 5.4. And then we have is fasting insulin levels. I want that less than 10. Fasting glucose levels. I want that less than 90. But a lot of these kids that are coming in with all of these symptoms have problems with insulin resistance. That's one of their key pieces. And no matter what they're dealing with. So this is where replacing the sugar, with all of these nutrient-dense forms of sweeteners, like fruit, which like we can go on and on about that benefits of fruit,
Sure.
right? On and on and on and on and on, benefits of fruit. But even just like honey and maple syrup or date sugar, right? And then if you're really, sometimes actually what I do is that because, my kids love lemonade, so I'll add a little stevia even. Organic stevia is a whole plant extract from a whole plant. That doesn't raise your blood sugar levels. Again, all of these things we do as just on the side. It's not like we concentrate our lives on these, but it's so the kids feel that they are not deprived. Their friends are eating it. Huge. I mean, my kids go to a school. I mean, they go to on Saturdays, they go to Saturday school. And there's 500 kids. All of them are eating pizza. Well, my kids are the only ones bringing cookies and candies, and they're passing out dum-dums. My kids are the only ones bringing their own lunch to school. One, the biggest way is I've empowered them with the education that they needed. So they know exactly everything that I'm telling you guys here. They know exactly what happens when that goes in their bodies. And they know the benefits of eating this other stuff. So knowledge is power. But on top of that, you don't want them to feel left out, per se. That here, I'm only eating this. I feel like I wish I could have something sweet and fun also. If they're having something fun, I would love something fun. And this is where baking them like little muffins and brownies and cookies and all these things with all of these different types of sugars, they won't even notice the difference.
Yeah.
So, and now it's a win-win for both you and the child.
Absolutely. And teaching the kids to make them for themselves, of course, gotta throw that in there.
You have to throw that in there. Because literally, like this weekend, I had 20 people over at my house. I'm like, you guys, while I cook this, you got to do this yourself. Come on. This is super easy. There's like 5 ingredients you can make the cupcakes. And my 6-year-old made the cupcakes.
Awesome.
So if my 6-year-old can make the cupcakes, you guys can easily do this. And then they feel like they're being involved. And then you throw blueberries. So my cupcakes are like almonds, eggs, honey, avocado oil, baking soda, and salt. That's it. The end. And then we'll throw some blueberries for super antioxidant purposes. And now they're like, we got blueberry muffins in the morning. Yay!
Beautiful.
So to empower your kids, obviously starts in the kitchen. So it's awesome.
Absolutely. Now you mentioned you're the director of Documenting Hope. So is there hope? What can people do to reverse the inflammation that causes disease?
So much hope. Because you remember now inflammation is a complex problem. And specifically with everybody being different. So one solution is not going to work for everybody.
Right.
But to really look into what your individual deficiencies may be is really, really important. So when I go through these, like I'll quickly go through these pieces of the puzzle, because in order to lower inflammation, we have to figure out what is causing that or what is triggering it. Because remember, deficits in any of these areas that we'll quickly just describe can actually cause or worsen inflammation and actually weaken your mitochondria, so then which is a powerhouse of the cell, so it doesn't help it work. And remember, again, everybody is different. So one of the key pieces, so what I like to do, the key pieces, is go through digestive health and detoxification, and the 4S's: stress, sleep, social, and spiritual health. And I know you have a lot of other experts talking about these, but I feel like just starting off with the basics really helps somebody, like gives them hope. Because you don't have to spend $1 million worth of tests. You don't have to spend $1 million worth of supplements. You don't have to go to all these doctors. You can start at your home. You can start in your kitchen. You can start in your bedroom. You can start in your bathroom. Like literally, you can just start in your home. Yeah. And so starting, we start with spiritual health. Our subconscious is governed by 90% of our thoughts and actions. Literally, our thoughts and actions are governed by our subconscious. So it's depending on, what's going on up here determines everything else that we do. And so immediately when gratitude, our worlds are bombarded with negativity. Bombarded with negativity. You turn the TV on, negativity. You watch, now social media is sucking all of the, sucking all the time, energy, where our kids are determined on oh my gosh, she has this, I don't have this. He has that, I don't got this. What about this? It's what they have, what I don't have, what they have, or they're going on this vacation. Oh, I wish I went on that vacation. Or, for women like us, why is her husband doing the dishes and I can't even pick up a plate? Whatever it is. But we have to change our subconscious instead of thinking positive. So immediately when you wake up in the morning, say 10 things that you're thankful for every single cell of eternity. And I do this with the kids. Immediately when we wake up, we say, thank you for our eyes, thank you for our ears, thank you for another beautiful day today.
Love it.
So we wake up with gratitude. So I try to crowd out all of the negativity with positivity. And in the morning, as we're putting our lunches together, remember all my kids are doing their own lunches. So, but I'm helping them with it. Yeah, so exactly, we're helping them with it. And as we're doing that, we're going out and saying, wow, let's talk about all the things that we're thankful for today. Let's figure out what we're going to get out of today. This is going to be awesome. How are we going to change the world today? Yay! And so really focus on the gratitude. The next piece is social health. Keep people around you are going to lift you up, not drag you down. Again, so much negativity in the world. You don't want people to, you don't want to deal with those. There's enough people out there that are going to lift you up. That's why I love you, Katie. Mwah. Keep people around you and lift you up, not drag you down. Then we have is sleep. We have to prioritize sleep, especially during sleep. We detoxify in our sleep. We heal in our sleep. We make hormones in our sleep. We lower inflammation in our sleep. So if the kids are not sleeping, guess what's happening? They're just becoming more sick. So we have to prioritize sleep. Social health, we talked about, spirituality, sleep, and then now stress. Oh my gosh. Stress leads to 80% of the complaints that come to primary care physicians. 80%. And when I used to have lupus. I used to have Hashimoto's. I used to have, I was on thyroid medications for 8 years of my life. I was on indigestion medications for years. I had acne, seborrheic dermatitis, eczema.
Oh my gosh. And
so all of that came to a head in residency when me and my husband were both interns.
Stress, a little stress for anyone around. Yeah.
A new mom, a new wife, a new resident, all at the same time. And super stressed. So, but I'm I realized this. So every time, especially when I got shingles, they're oh, it's just stress. I'm I know it's stress, but how am I going to manage stress? Guess what? They could not tell me. And so we as doctors are not taught a class of nutrition. We're not taught a class of stress management.
No.
And so really optimizing, lowering the stress. I don't know how much more you want to go into this, but just briefly, like incorporating either stress management techniques like, you know, yoga or meditation. We meditate with my kids. We practice mindfulness on a daily basis with the kids. You know, incorporating these small little things into their daily lives really help to optimize their resilience to stress.
Yeah.
And then we have is digestive health and detoxification. We know gut health is super important.
Oh, yeah.
I have, you know, the difference between somebody with a problem and somebody without a problem. If we say the same anatomy books and we say the same physiology books, it's not. So yes, it's our environment, because the biggest connection between our insides and our outsides is through our mouth, our gut. And so our gut has 70 to 80% of our immune system, has 100 trillion bacteria. We need these nice and balanced in order for everything to work properly. So if you have more good bacteria, everything works well. But if you start adding sugar and you start killing off the bad bacteria, it gets replaced by bad bacteria. A good one gets replaced by bad bacteria. What happens is that now you have an overgrowth of bad bacteria. And then sugar just continues to feed it. So that leads to things getting through that should not be getting through. 70 to 80% of the immune system goes and attacks it, leaves immune complexes to go all over the body, leading to chronic diseases of every stripe. So another way that sugar messes you up. Then we have, so really what I do is I have people get off of, especially if someone is sick, all grains, all dairy, all sugar, all processed foods, replace we got to basically crowd out with good foods like tons of fruit, vegetables, good fruit, healthy fats, and clean protein, a bone broth, fish oil, you know, things that are for gut healing, vitamin D, probiotics, things like that that can help to heal the gut. So that's the gut piece. And then remember, whenever you put food in your body, you want to make sure it's 3 criteria. One, that it helps heal your gut. We just talked about that, and keeps your gut bacteria. So sugar does not do that. It only feeds the bad stuff. So we want to take that out. And then you want to also make sure that it balances your hormone levels and optimizes your insulin. So to make sure that your insulin, your glucose, all of that stuff is working properly. Again, sugar doesn't do that. So get that out again completely. And then nutrient dense. And because sugar has no nutrient value, completely out. So whenever you put food in your body, heal the gut, balance hormones and insulin levels, and nutrient dense. Focus on vegetables, protein, healthy fats to make sure we can decrease the amount of insulin resistance. And then obviously detoxifications, because the fact that there's toxins all over. And we live in a world full of toxins, and it's visible. With regular exposure, these toxins can slowly accumulate in our bodies, placing a really heavy burden on the liver. And that's an organ that's responsible for getting rid of that toxins. Right. So when it's overwhelmed and it can't eliminate the toxins, and especially if you have some genetic abnormalities or some genetic deficits, the liver tends to store it. And when it's unable to do it tends to store it, it's unable to do its job. So therefore, increases inflammation, lowers immunity, increases the body's vulnerability to autoimmune disease, cancer, blood sugar issues, makes the body numb. These toxins also make the body numb to insulin, so that now you add that to the mix, it increases more insulin resistance, preventing from losing weight. And even toxins can even affect our genes, so where it can inflame the gut and also lead to leaky gut. So basically all badness. So if we can try to optimize all of these different pieces, our digestive health, nutrition, detoxification, and then the 4 S's: stress, sleep, social, and spiritual health, just in and of itself, just starting with those baseline. I know when you go online, there's so many different complicated ways of doing it, but what I have found over the last 11 years of practicing holistic medicine with 100% success rate in improving chronic illness and lifestyle, only some patients need to go further, right? But we got to start with the basics, because once you start with the basics, your body can start putting itself into balance.
Nice.
And you give your body exactly what it needs to heal, to get exactly what you need for your mitochondria to work appropriately. So therefore, you have happy, healthy children and family. Yay!
Very nice. I think you've resoundingly closed that argument against sugar
Woo-hoo!
and other things too. So good. It does give a lot of hope to think, you know what, if sugar is causing chronic inflammation, leading to chronic disease and
Absolutely.
insulin resistance problem, but guess what? You remove the sugar, you replace it with whole nutrient dense foods, fill your
Absolutely.
gut, like you can solve this problem. And for most of us, God willing, most of parents, their kids are not all the way to pre-diabetes or insulin resistance
Absolutely.
yet. So it's just a matter of curbing what we're doing, a matter of curbing the problems that
Absolutely.
maybe, you know, the culture and the sugar crazy culture is causing. So that's so good. What would you say, Dr. Saeed? It's like so much information, right?
Yes.
And so parents go, uh-oh, like that's
Yeah.
too much.
Woo!
So let's just distill down, like if parents were to do one thing, and don't say cut sugar from your house, one thing today that's like a simpler baby step, what would you tell them to do?
Buy honey.
Okay.
Right? If
And
you just
just
have it in
start
your
to
house,
switch. Yeah.
yeah, if you just have it in your house, just go out and purchase it. If you have it in your house, think about all of the benefits this has versus this. And now instead of in the teas or whatever, or in the cakes and cookies, instead of sugar, okay, here we go, we have honey. We have this here. So if you have it in your house, you're more apt to actually make it a real life solution.
Yep, that is an excellent baby step
Right?
because it is. It's just giving yourself the raw materials you need to make then the next
The
baby
next step.
step, and it's just tiny changes making a
Tiny
really big
changes.
impact. That is so fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Madiha Saeed. This has been
Thank you so much.
super educational, and we really appreciate it here at Kitchen Stewardship.
Yay! Excellent. Thank you guys so much. If you guys want to know more about me,
Yeah, definitely. We'll send them there.
Yes, awesome. HolisticMomMD.com.
HolisticMomMD.com. Yep, HolisticMomMD.com. We'll link to that wherever we share this video for sure.
Awesome, thank you.
And also, I know Dr. Seed has some special little gifts for you, so we'll have links to that wherever this video is shared as well.
Thank you.
All right. See you next time, everybody.